Ready to record here? You got something in your nose there, Brian. I don't know what it is. No, you're fine.
I almost got it.
Hey, welcome back to the Vinyl Word Podcast. As always, I'm Steve Beach.
And I'm Brian Mayer. Hello.
We are at our beautiful Greenwood Public Library podcast studio.
Yes, we are.
Once again. Yeah, so we're in a great place this evening. Want to continue to remind you guys to follow us. We're on Facebook. We have Instagram. However you're listening to us, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, just make sure you hit the notifications. That way you'll get a notification when we have a new episode. Because we always said we try to put these out on a regular basis, but that never really works.
No.
Because we have families and full-time jobs.
Yes, we do. We record in a library.
Yes. This is how much money we have.
Uh-huh.
It's free.
Yep.
And it's awesome, though.
It is.
You can also contact us via email at vinylwar22@gmail.com. We're also on SoundCloud. And then we have a YouTube channel as well, so you can listen to those in the audio version.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the one thing I want to mention before we get into the record and everything. So we got an email from the Daily Journal, I guess through a connection through us using the podcast studio here, I guess. So they
wanted to interview me about the indecent exposure charge that I am protesting vehemently.
No, but they wanted to do an interview with us about our podcast and just how it's grown, how the idea came about. So we're very excited about that. That's going to take place in present time next week. So probably by the time this episode comes out, we'll have already had the interview, hopefully.
Right.
So, but we'll see.
And Steve, maybe at the end of this or next week, next episode, we can give them the website so
Absolutely.
that if they don't live in the Greenwood area and get that
Obviously.
local paper, that they will be able to access that article.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we will absolutely post that.
Recognition of any kind is very helpful to a fragile ego like mine.
Yes, it is. Yes, you are correct. Yeah. So we're starting a new record today, right?
Yes, we are, Steve. We are starting with the singing lady, Renee Wicker. She says the famed singing lady of radio and TV.
Never heard of her.
Yeah, I got news for you. That's not true.
Yeah. She's less popular than we are.
And that's saying something.
Right, it is.
Yep. Okay, The Singing Lady is a record that is intended to be played for children to make education fun. And like almost every single item that has ever come with the tag making education fun, it doesn't.
Right, it usually is not.
Correct. But we are going to listen to one of the stories from side one. This was a pretty long side one.
Yes, it is.
So we're going to break this up into three sections. And the first one that we are going to do is Abraham Lincoln.
Yep. We're just going to Jack Armstrong it, Brian.
Yes, we are. Episode a bit at a time. It's going to be fun. She tells some rather interesting stories about Abraham Lincoln as a child that are almost certainly not true.
Right, because we have very little documentation about his childhood.
Correct.
Other than the fact he lived in Kentucky for a little bit and then Indiana.
Right, and then he moved to Illinois once he realized that he could leave both of those places. So,
Right.
Indiana, the state famous for leaving.
Right.
We're like Las Vegas that way.
Yeah.
Without further ado, I think first we're going to start with some Charlie Cutler.
Yes, let's check in with our friend Charlie Cutler.
It seems to me that... Oh, hello, this is Charlie Cutler.
Yeah.
Let's just talk for a couple of minutes. It seems to me that most of us put up with putting things off. And the job that
mostly
usually
I put up or
gets
put out.
put off the longest is cleaning the attic.
What?
Now, I haven't seen your attic, but
You don't want
I can
to.
guess what's up there.
I hope not, weirdo.
You probably have a framed picture of Uncle Fred. That
And that's
gets
where it's
dusted
to
off
stay.
and brought down
Yeah.
only
In the
when
attic.
Uncle Fred
Uncle Fred's a
comes for
weirdo,
visit.
man.
And if you rummage around, you'll probably find little Elwood's first booties.
He
And most
said that
of his
out loud?
toys, including the ones he busted.
I think he meant Elwood's
and you
booty
intend
shorts.
to fix
Oh,
someday.
I thought he meant pictures of his
And
ex-girlfriend.
I'm pretty sure you've hidden away a batch of old magazines and newspapers because there are
What kind
a
of
lot
magazines do
important
people keep in their
articles
attic,
you're
Steve?
going
National
to read
Geographics.
Whenever you get time.
Maybe.
Now, most of the things up in the attic aren't worth much, but Once in a while, you might just get a surprise.
Hey, Steve, do you think there
Maybe.
are toys in the attic?
Great-grandpa had a first edition of Dickens. Or Grandma's
No, Steve,
real
don't.
cut
Okay.
glass might turn out to be really real cut glass. Or maybe that old rocker you hid in the attic
Might be Keith
could
Richards.
turn out to be a valuable antique. So,
Just
maybe
in the
you
corner,
shouldn't
smoking
put
away.
off
What's
taking
up,
the
buddy?
attic. You could be handsomely rewarded. It seems to me that sometimes all of us
Hey, you
put
think maybe
off
there's some
some
songs
of
up
the
there?
biggest decisions in our
Only
lives.
in Billy Joel's attic.
Decisions that
That's it.
can be
Yeah,
rewarding
probably.
for all eternity. Now that's something worth considering, isn't it?
No, not really.
Not at all. Well, thanks, Charlie.
Yeah, and by the way, one of the things we mentioned before we start here is because this is the singing lady, we have just made a decision to make this more of a musical episode. So there's
Yes.
going to be,
We are not going to sing.
well, I'm going to sing a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, but
Thanks for the warning.
well, thank you. But like this is going to be an episode where we just reference some different artists and different, like we're just trying to go along with the flow here. And
Right, about the music and songs and, songs that she makes up or creates her own version of.
yes, absolutely. All right, well, Steve, then without further ado, let's drop the needle and get this going.
Once upon a time, as nearly everybody knows, Abraham Lincoln was President of the United States.
Hey,
This
Blinken.
is a true story about Abraham
No,
Lincoln
I said
when he was
Abe
a little boy,
Lincoln.
8
Oh.
years old.
Men in tights.
It began one autumn afternoon.
Steve, did you know
in the year
that Abe
of
Lincoln was also a professional
1816?
jockey that was fired
Abraham's
for being
parents
way
had
too
just
tall?
moved
I did not.
From Kentucky
Yep.
to settle in the state of Indiana. Everybody helped build the new log cabin.
Yep.
The children singing
Steve, this
as
was in
they were.
1816.
First,
That's when Rene
Abe's
Lenoff invented the
favorite
stethoscope.
song.
And it was also known as the year without a summer because of the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora.
Here's the way we roll. Singing our
You lost
song
me.
while we're
I'm
going
sorry.
along
We can start over.
down the
No.
Ohio.
Got it.
Load the old flatboat.
Okay, so
Here's
Steve,
the way we
The Lincolns
load.
left Kentucky.
Singing
Right.
our song
For
as we're
Indiana.
going along
Okay, so
down the
why are you asking?
Ohio.
Well, what do they call their place after they left?
The old flatboat.
I don't know.
Now
My old Kentucky home.
go,
I'm so
singing our
sorry.
song as we're going along down the Ohio. Well, that's my favorite song, Sarah. Now let's have yours. Oh yes, babe. You know mine.
Sarah.
Yeah, who was it that sang that?
ABC.
Was-
Sorry.
Who was it that sang that?
G.
Air Supply. I think.
Or was it Journey?
Oh, it could be Foreigner.
Yeah, well, they're all the same band.
Styx, REO Speedwagon.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah. Okay, so Steve, fun fact. It was in Indiana where Lincoln's mom Nancy died of milk sickness. You should really avoid White Snake Root.
Oh, I do. I prefer Warrant.
White Snake
Well,
Root.
by the time the log
Oh,
cabin
Not
was
sorry.
White
finished,
Snake.
The district school term had begun. Abe and Sarah.
So,
were
Steve,
able
what
to
are
go
some
on
of
Friday
what do you think some of
of the
Abe Lincoln's
first
favorite
week.
songs are?
The schoolhouse was
Like with
several
rap.
miles away.
What?
Oh,
and Sarah's
I
son
like
lagged
big huts and I
behind.
cannot
Please,
lie.
Abe,
Oh,
don't be
AB
so
got
fast.
back.
Sorry, Sarah, but I just can't wait
I was
to get
thinking
there
more
and
along the
see
lines
what
of
the
It's All
teacher is
About the
like.
Lincolns,
If they
Some
have
Money,
lots of
Some
books
Problems.
to read.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Or the 80s ballads.
There's a
Oh,
rainbow up
AB,
in the sky.
AB, I'm taken with the
The
notion.
notion.
Rainbow
The Final Word, quite possibly the only podcast for jokey Amy Grant lyrics.
all take warning. Rainbow in the night. Sailors take delight.
Sailors on leave. All the girls
know
take
it.
warning.
Also
That's
means
very true.
rain is a-falling. Someplace close by, too. I have a song for that, too. Pitta-patta. Pitta-patta.
Pitta-patta.
Goes the
Is she
rain.
making pita bread?
Beating on
Maybe
the
she's British?
window pane.
Pita.
Rain, oh rain, please go away.
Oh,
This is-
Pita, come here, Pita.
This is the way that people in Kentucky and Indiana talk. We listen to the pitter-patter of the rain on the roof.
On our flat.
Go fast and we're here. Looks powerful small, Abe. Just one little room. Not
That's
so
what.
little.
No, never mind.
Okay.
Room for a heap
Hey,
of young folk in there.
Ooh, for a heap
Must
of young
be
folk.
dozens
Now I'm
there
just
right
imagining
now.
a pile of
On
children.
those long benches.
Hey, Steve, what's
Room
the
for
difference
more.
between
No,
a de-
no.
Look
Okay.
at that
Stop.
stove.
Oh,
Just
do you
like
wanna
the
hear
one
another
in
fun
the
fact
store
about
back
Lincoln?
home in Kentucky.
Sure.
Each time Abe would go to the family outhouse, he'd get up and he'd say, "Time to make some Lincoln logs."
I'm glad we don't have a stove
Gross,
at home.
but funny.
Fireplaces give out a lot more light for reading evenings. Abe, what's that up on the wall? Oh, those are antlers. Don't you know that?
Antlers.
Deer horns.
I guess Abe was a real
Beauties, too.
swinger.
They sure would make a good
Yep.
trapeze. See how far they stretch out? Look, I can jump up just like this and catch on and swing. Just the way they do in the carnival. Oh. Abe, did you hurt yourself?
He broke the atlas. It
I
shrugged.
feel kind of silly, though.
Antlers, Brian.
What will you do?
Antlers.
What will you tell the teacher?
Oh, that
He's
ruins
coming.
my Ayn Rand
Like a
joke.
deer?
Well, there
Yes.
isn't
Oh.
anything to tell him, Sarah, except the truth. Quiet, children. No more whispering.
Is that the teacher?
Well,
I wonder
Yeah.
if they're hot for
what happened to the antlers? I broke them, sir. Oh? You broke them? Well,
with my
who are you?
butt.
A new boy, sir. From Kentucky. Our folks just moved here. This is my sister, Sarah Lincoln. My name is Abraham Lincoln. I didn't mean to
I'm
break
Sarah
your antlers.
Lincoln.
I
Also make
grabbed them to
cheesecakes.
swing like
And my
on a
brother
trapeze.
Abe will sell town cars.
It was powerful silly of me. I should have known better, and I'm sorry, sir. Well,
Steve, where do I
Abraham
recognize this
Lincoln.
teacher from?
you are a brave boy. Honest, too.
Wasn't
This heavy ruler
wasn't
you
that
see
teacher
in
on
my
Rudolph the
hand
Red-Nosed
hurt,
Reindeer?
And you know it.
Or like one of those Rankin
But you
Bass
spoke
movies?
up just
You know
the
what? I
same.
think you're right.
So, I'm not going to use it.
Not
Now,
even for
children,
measuring,
whenever
sir?
you find it hard to tell the truth, I hope
You're
you
a
remember
special kind of
Abraham
stupid,
Lincoln's
aren't you,
behavior this
Abe?
morning. Pays off in good feeling. Telling the truth makes you feel better.
Oh,
Now
so
we'll
does
get
the
on with
following,
lesson.
Steve.
Yesterday we
A
began
nice meal?
to read about George Washington,
sunsets?
first
An encouraging
president of
word?
the United States.
Peyote?
What?
Wait,
Remember,
don't
we
know.
spoke of the Declaration of Independence and the ringing of the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia.
And
Oh, yes,
tomorrow we'll
before we
discuss the
continue,
1979
we'll
hit
sing
by
that
Anita
song about
Ward.
the Liberty Bell. Miss Sarah Lincoln, our new girl, would you like to lead the song? The words and music are right there on the blackboard.
Oh, as she
tried.
reads.
I think I
Ring my
can.
bell. Ring my bell.
My
Once
bell.
again, your story tell. 1, 2, 3, ring for me. Ring and ring, Liberty Bell.
Would it be more like
I was kind of
bang,
It was very
bong?
Now, children, remember, it was George Washington who helped most to bring about that liberty for our country.
No
That
one
evening,
else.
as Abe and Sarah walked home, Abe looked thoughtful. Sarah, you know George
Looked
Washington
uncomfortable.
was a great
Diarrhea
man.
was approaching
I'd
again.
like to learn more about him. Mr. Crawford, right next door to us, he has a book about
Mr.
George Washington.
Crawford,
Let's ask him along.
yeah.
Sarah, that's
Hey,
a good idea.
didn't he have a daughter named Cindy?
You go on
I think
home
so,
and
yeah.
I'll just stop right now and ask for it. Mr. Crawford! Mr. Crawford! Yes. Oh, it's you, Abe Lincoln, huh? What do you want, youngster? Mr. Crawford, Sarah says you have a book about George Washington. I'd rather read that than any book in this world. Could I borrow it, please, Mr. Crawford? Could I? Well, it's a pretty expensive book, you know.
It's filled with words and
I
superheroes.
would take very
It's called
good
a
care
comic
of it, sir.
book.
Oh, I calculate
So,
you can
Steve,
have
like,
it, boy,
it's
but
expensive,
mind you,
like
only
the Gutenberg
overnight.
Bible?
That's all.
But why
Yes,
is Steve's
thank
Bible
you,
more
sir.
valuable than
I'll
mine?
bring it back first thing in the morning, early.
Really? A
Bye,
Steve
Mr.
Gutenberg
Crawford.
joke?
Abe
I
held
tried.
the precious
I
book
have no
tightly in his arms, stopping to look at it every few steps, wishing he could sit by the fire all night and read. Then he realized his mother was calling.
Your
Abe?
grandma and my
Hurry,
grandma
child.
sitting by
Supper's
the
on the table.
fire.
We've all finished. Oh, look, Mama. Mr. Crawford, he let me borrow this book about George Washington. I have to read it
George
tonight.
Washington, wasn't that the guy that worked with
Goodness,
Peanuts?
child, you can't
No,
sit
no,
out
no, no,
after the
that's
fire
George
goes
Wash-
out.
that's
It's
Carver.
almost out
Carver.
now.
Oh, no, George
That's
Carver
it,
was
now
on
finish your
Seinfeld.
soup right
No,
away.
that's Costanza.
Abe, I'm afraid
Oh,
you
the guy
and
who won the
Sarah must
Yankees?
go right
No, that's
to bed.
Steinbrenner.
Oh, the
Please,
angry
Mama,
ruler.
Just a little
Yes.
bit more. This is the part where Washington is crossing the Delaware. Please, no, dear. I'm sorry. The fire is
He also had a book
low.
about Madonna, but he wouldn't let me borrow that one for some
Now,
reason.
Be careful.
'Cause I
on
was
your
sitting in his
candle
attic.
Going up to that loft. Good night, son.
Nice callback.
Night, Mama. Night, Papa. Sarah. So all the good nights were said. Abe climbed up, to the bunk
Good
in
night,
the loft.
Wall.
Well,
Good night,
I can read till
Stove.
the candle burns
Good night,
out.
Moon.
I can get up at sunrise and finish. And give Mr. Crawford his book first thing in the morning anyhow. Glad it's Saturday. No school.
Cartoons!
Abe did read until the candle burned out.
Hey, Steve, do you know what they had for
He'd
dinner that
almost
night?
finished the
No.
book.
Meatloaf.
Now I have to put it away
Though
so
it's
that it'll be safe.
cold and
Oh, good.
lonely in
This
that
right here between
loft
these two logs is just the right size.
tonight,
Fits fine.
I can read
I'll wake up at
Washington
sunrise
by the
Young Abraham Lincoln woke up
candlelight.
early, but there was no sunrise. Just a cloudy, dark, gray dawn with a steady
And in the
downpour
evening,
of
he said,
rain
S-A-T-U-R,
pounding the roof of the cabin.
Night.
The book! It's rained on! It's wet! It's soaking wet! We have to go and tell Mr. Crawford
Oh,
right
okay.
now.
So,
Soon as I
Steve,
can
what,
get
what,
into these
what's he going to
calls.
tell him?
I guess he could blame it on the rain.
Better carry
Oh,
my shoes.
And he carried his
so I can get out
shoes
the door
because he
without
didn't want them to
waking
wake.
up
He didn't want to wake them up before he
This is
go-goes.
awful. I promise
you need
to
to
take
stop.
good care of it.
Sorry.
Mr. Crawford! Mr. Crawford!
Is Cindy around?
Who is it?
Crawford!
Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln, Mr. Crawford. You didn't have to bring the book back this early, boy. I'm not even...
I don't even have my
even
wooden
up yet.
teeth in yet.
Mr. Crawford, a terrible thing happened. Your book, it got rained on. I thought it would be safe in a chink between the logs, but
Paper
it
and
got
water?
rained on. It's
It'll be
soaking
safe.
Wet. Mr. Crawford, I'll do anything to make up for it. Anything, Mr. Crawford. Well, Abe, no, you couldn't help it. 'Twasn't your fault it rained. You just come over here one of these days right soon and finish shucking the corn for me, and you can keep the book.
Oh, Steve, one, he can keep the book because
Thank
it's
you,
now a
Mr.
derelict
Crawford.
of dialect.
Right.
Start now.
Steve, he's
This
gonna
minute.
shuck corn.
And
We
I
can
won't
make more
stop
shucking
every bit of
jokes.
that corn is
Okay,
finished.
you start.
So did she
Abe
ask
Lincoln
if Jimmy could help him crack
started
corn?
shucking for
And
Mr.
he would
Crawford.
respond with, I don't
I
care.
don't
Early
care.
Monday morning,
So, and
Tired,
nobody would say this, but
but
Mr.
happy.
Crawford was pleased at how
Finished.
long and hard
he
Abe
walked home
shucked.
holding
Yes.
a precious book in his hands.
And Mr. Crawford would never admit it,
It's mine,
but it brought him
young
pleasure
book.
to watch young
I'm
Abe
glad I
shuck.
told Mr. Crawford the truth. Makes me feel
Corn
better.
tassels in
Things
flight,
that did
afternoon delight.
antlers. I
That
shall
very day
always
also,
try
Mr. Crawford began
to
working
tell
on
the
his
truth,
memoir.
No matter
Corn
how
in the
Corn
hard.
USA.
Abraham Lincoln always did tell the truth.
Even when he
Sometimes
didn't.
it was
I'd lie
very
for
hard
you,
indeed.
and that's the
He grew up
truth.
to be
Another
a good
meatloaf
man,
joke?
Honest.
I
kind,
think you've had enough meatloaf
and
jokes.
But I
with a
love
special
meatloaf, Steve.
Wisdom
Yeah, it's better with
and
ketchup,
nobility
though.
of spirit, which helped him to
Oh.
become a president who will be remembered always.
Especially
as one of the
whenever
greatest
mattresses go on
in the
sale,
history
or you
of the
reach for the
United
only
States
piece of
of
currency that
America.
costs more to make than it's worth. America sure does honor its heroes.
Yeah, for a president who's done a lot for our country, we remember him by selling mattresses
Yeah,
and
it's-
cars.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Abraham Lincoln really should get a lot of recognition for being a truly great president, but the way that we choose to do that is President's Day. He just gets lumped in with everyone else, including Andrew Jackson, a man
Right.
who openly defied the authority of the Supreme Court.
Right.
But yeah, no, like we'll just throw in the
Oh,
guy
it's
who
fine.
saved the United States as a single republic,
Right.
and
From
we'll-
splitting in half.
yeah. And this is interesting. Like there's these apocryphal stories like Washington cutting down the cherry tree.
Right.
I cannot tell a lie. Like we want to venerate these guys and build them up when they were just people.
Right.
Like they certainly had some altruism. There was some good there, but
Yeah,
there was also
but-
some pretty like you look back and you're like, okay, well, they don't have to be godlike.
Yeah, they're not like holy people. I mean, my goodness, you read about Moses in the Bible, led the Israelites. Mm-hmm. But did you forget that he actually murdered a guy
Yeah.
too?
It's one of those things where it's like,
and-
shh, shh, shh.
Yeah, and great King David in the Bible, but he also had a woman's husband killed so he could have her.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about those.
Right.
I'm not saying that David was a bad guy. I'm just saying that, yeah, a lot
We're,
of times.
we're saying he was a guy.
Right, yeah, he was a human being. I mean, yeah, they all did great things. Moses,
Mm-hmm.
David, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. Yeah, they all did amazing things. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doubting that. But yeah, we tend to focus on that, and we tend to put them on a pedestal and think they were perfect.
We don't have to create stories where they are reading about the history of the nation and then confessing immediately to something that they were only tangentially connected to because
Right.
it reveals the purity of their character.
Right, right. And I'm sure like those songs that lady was just making up. But for her, it was a fact. It was a true story.
Yeah.
All those songs and yeah. And
Yeah.
we talked about this before about so many different versions of the alphabet song. Mm-hmm. Like she gets to G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Won't you sing the alphabet with me?
I'm glad you mentioned that because in doing these spoken word records, we get these weird snapshots
Miss Migsy hadn't had one.
from the history or from the history of the U.S. and we learn that the ABC song was not standardized until
I guess not.
until later.
I guess not, evidently.
Like, yeah, this is like the third or fourth variant
Yeah.
that we have heard of it.
Yeah.
And it's so now, and we talked over it this time just because we've already made jokes about this.
Right,
Like,
several times.
Yeah. But it's wacky. It really is wacky
Yeah.
that we listen because the first time we did that, it made my head hurt. Like, it's like-
Yeah, 'cause you get just start rhythm and you're like, "Er," you get brakes put on. You're like, wait, something's off. It's like you're driving down the road and you hit a pothole that you didn't see.
yeah, yeah, it's a mental pothole, and
Right.
and it's just as jarring.
It is. Didn't a friend of yours give you an ABC record?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
a friend of mine.
We should probably do that sometime.
Well, like it was 26 songs, and like each letter got its own song.
Right.
So maybe we
Maybe just a
like
few of
pull,
them.
yeah, we pull off a couple of them. These records are so fascinating.
Yeah.
There's just so much going on, and we've talked about it too. This makes more sense in the world of YouTube now, where you can make audio and video together.
Correct.
But they didn't have that option available to them.
Right.
So they just did the best they could with what they had. And what
Right.
they had was an incomplete medium. And that's how you end up with these
Right.
weird
What-
song
Yeah.
stories.
Well, there's a few records we've gotten to where it'll say on the cover, instructions inside, or there's pictures, like there was one record we did with like, some kids making different,
Dances.
yes. But yeah, and it had a picture book on the inside of, how to make the different dances and stuff. And there was another one we had, with the Stan Musial one, it
Right.
had instructions of how to hold the bat and everything else.
Right. And it's a good thing that there were only static pictures because hitting a baseball is, only done from fixed motions exclusively.
Correct.
There's not a lot of fluidity involved or
None at
adjusting
all.
to where the pitch is.
No, none of that.
So, yeah, it's and again, like
It almost should have came with a little flip book. They flip the pages and it kind of animates. You can see the bat coming around slowly.
that would have been hilarious just because the record itself would have been like an inch and a half thick.
And the book's like 80 pages.
Yeah. This is a very interesting record.
It is.
I like the singing lady more than I thought I would. Right, and this was a fun one just to kind of mention as we were going along.
Sure,
So,
sure.
Steve, I enjoyed this. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to doing the next one.
Yeah, me too.
Whatever
So
that
who
is.
are the next two that we're doing next?
Well, it's going to be George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. So we will have to see. And just so that you guys are aware, we're only going to do the one side of this record because side 2 is racist. So just
Yes, I remember we looked at this last summer, and you got a few minutes into side 2, and you're like, yeah, no.
yeah. No,
getting into it, so.
yeah, we shelved it intentionally,
Yep.
and then we went back with a clearer eye and realized side 1 was fine. Like
Yeah.
side 1 was perfectly good, but we were thinking these episodes should always be a full record. And
Right.
then we decided, you know what, there's good material on here. Let's just use the good material and not use the material that's
Right.
not.
Exactly.
So,
Well, with that, thank you guys always for listening and telling others about us. Appreciate your dedication to our podcast and just listening, and so many friends and family. Continue to tell your friends and family about us.
absolutely. And Steve, before we leave, I just want to remind everyone, not all records should be collected.
but I'm